The conference room was dimly lit, the only illumination coming from a holographic map that floated above the center table. Its details glowed faintly. Ridges, rivers, roads, and a cluster of enemy fortifications marked with red dots that seemed to pulse with menace. The SEAL team filed in silently, each man carrying the weight of anticipation and years of hard-earned discipline. Marcus Kane, the team leader, leaned against the table, his eyes scanning the map with careful precision. His jaw was set, the faint lines around his eyes telling the story of someone who had seen too many missions go wrong. "This isn't going to be easy," he said quietly, his voice carrying a calm authority that contrasted with the tension in the room. "Intel shows the compound is fortified beyond anything we've trained for in simulations. Sensors, patrols, mines, everything. If we're detected, the chances of extraction without casualties drop dramatically." The team remained silent, absorbing his words. They had all heard similar briefings before, but this one felt heavier. Maybe it was the location, deep in hostile territory, with no nearby support. Maybe it was the knowledge that the target, a high-value operative responsible for multiple attacks, wouldn't make things easy for them. Or maybe it was Marcus himself. His measured tone carried an unspoken warning. Tonight would demand everything they had. Across the room, Captain Riley Hayes, the A-10 pilot, tapped her fingers against the console in front of her. She had flown countless combat missions before, her plane's engines roaring like a predator in the sky. But today was different. There would be no wingman, no backup. Just her and the steel beast she knew better than her own heartbeat. She could feel the tension in the air, the way the team's anxiety intertwined with the hum of electronic devices and the subtle vibration of the building's floor beneath them. Her mind was already calculating runs, strafing paths, and potential hazards. Marcus gestured toward her. "Riley, we're going in hot, and we'll need eyes in the sky. Can you cover us?" Her reply was calm, almost casual, but carried an edge of steel. "You'll have my cover. But remember, I'm flying low, no wingman, tight windows. You move fast. I can buy you time, but you still have to make it happen on the ground." Marcus nodded, understanding implicitly. That was all the reassurance they needed. Trust in Riley wasn't blind. It was earned over countless operations, where her instinct had saved lives more times than anyone could count. The team gathered around the map, pointing out possible insertion points and movement paths. Every plan was weighed against potential pitfalls, enemy sight lines, terrain obstacles, and the fact that the enemy might have intelligence of their arrival. They went over contingencies meticulously. Marcus knew the importance of planning, but also understood that no plan survived first contact entirely intact. This would be a test of skill, adaptability, and sheer courage. Specialist Ortiz, the team's reconnaissance expert, frowned at the holographic map. "The ridge on the north edge," he said, tracing it with a gloved finger, "gives us cover from direct observation, but the sensors on the compound's perimeter could pick us up. We'll need to move slow, coordinate our signal jammers, and hope their patrols don't cover it at the same time." Marcus nodded. "Agreed. Ortiz, you lead the way there. Jennings, you take point once we reach the ridge. The rest of us follow. Keep comms clean. Eyes open, triggers ready, and every movement deliberate. No heroics." There was a brief pause as the team internalized the plan. Each man checked his gear, rifles cleaned and zeroed, night vision goggles calibrated, explosives packed, communication devices sensed. The ritual was familiar, almost comforting in its repetition. Yet tonight felt different. The stakes were higher. The target was more dangerous, and the odds were stacked against them in a way that made every heartbeat seem louder than the last. Riley's fingers danced over the flight console, plotting approach vectors for her A-10. She studied the terrain from multiple angles, factoring in altitude, wind speed, and potential anti-air positions. She had run this scenario in her mind 100 times, imagining enemy fire ripping through the night sky, her engines shaking under the stress. She knew her plane's armor could take a lot, but without a wingman, she was alone against whatever the enemy threw at her. And yet, that's what made her confident. She thrived on risk. She had to. Marcus walked over to the window, looking out at the fading light. The darkness outside mirrored the tension inside. He thought about the men and women under his command there. Families, their lives outside this war, but there was no time for hesitation. Failure tonight wasn't an option. He felt the familiar mix of adrenaline and dread, the weight of responsibility pressing down. But alongside it, there was determination. They were SEALs. They didn't quit. They didn't fail. Not tonight. Everyone understands their roles? Marcus asked, turning to face the team. Heads nodded. Silence answered him, but it was a silent affirmation of readiness. Good, he said. Remember, we go in quiet. We move fast, and we rely on each other. And when the time comes, don't think react. Trust your training, trust your teammates, and trust Riley. There was a small smile exchanged between Marcus and Riley, a quiet acknowledgement of mutual trust, unspoken but understood. They had both been in impossible situations before, situations that demanded more than skill, courage, instinct, and the willingness to act when everything seemed lost. Tonight would test that trust like never before. The SEALs gathered their packs and weapons, moving to the staging area outside the room. The air was thick with anticipation. Each step was measured, every breath controlled. Even the sound of their boots against the concrete seemed amplified in the quiet of the base. Riley climbed into the cockpit of her A-10, her hands steady as she ran through the pre-flight checks. The roar of the engines filled the air, a low, guttural growl that resonated through the metal frame. She could feel the vibrations, the potential energy of the machine beneath her. It was more than just a plane, it was an extension of herself. And tonight, it would be the difference between life and death for the men on the ground. Marcus led the team outside, their silhouettes blending with the shadows of the night. The helicopter waiting for them hummed softly, rotors slicing through the air with quiet precision. They climbed in, each man securing harnesses and double-checking gear. The tension was almost palpable, a tightrope stretched over uncertainty as the aircraft lifted off. Marcus took one last glance at the base behind them. No turning back now. Ahead lay danger, enemy fire, and the unknown. But ahead also lay opportunity for success, for survival, for proving that even when odds were stacked against them, they could overcome. And somewhere high above the battlefield, Riley's A-10 waited, engines humming, eyes scanning, ready to scream in low over the enemy when the moment demanded it. The night was about to erupt, and nothing would ever be the same. The night was thick with humidity and the faint smell of damp earth as the helicopter carrying the SEAL team descended toward the insertion point. Every man was silent, lost in his own calculations, checking gear, double-checking weapons, and listening to the low whine of the rotors above. Marcus Kane's eyes swept the dense terrain below the ridges, the ravines, the dense tree lines that promised both cover and danger. He could see the moonlight reflecting off shallow streams, marking subtle pathways, but shadows played tricks even on the sharpest eyes. Nothing could be taken for granted tonight. Altitude check, Marcus muttered, though no one needed to answer. The team worked with practiced efficiency, harnessing every ounce of their training. Specialist Ortiz, ever vigilant, scanned the dark horizon, noting possible patrol routes and sensor arrays. Every movement the SEALs made was deliberate, silent, designed to blend with the darkness and avoid detection. Even the soft rustle of leaves or a dropped piece of equipment could compromise everything. The helicopter touched down on a narrow ridge, barely wide enough to accommodate it. The team disembarked, landing silently onto the wet soil. Feet sank into the mud, the occasional snap of a twig betraying their presence in ways they could not always control. The team leader signaled, and the SEALs formed a tight perimeter. Flashlights remained off. Only night vision goggles illuminated the blackened world around them in a faint green glow. Marcus pointed toward the first obstacle, a patrol path crisscrossing the ridge. It was predictable in its pattern, yet deadly in its precision. The SEALs moved in small groups, hand signals directing movements that had been rehearsed countless times. They crouched behind rocks, crawled under fallen trees, and slipped between shadows like ghosts. The sound of their controlled breathing mixed with the distant hum of nocturnal insects. Every second was a potential threat. 2 o'clock, whispered Ortiz, his eyes scanning through night vision goggles. Patrol approaching fast. 3 soldiers, heavily armed, moving west to east. They'll hit the ridge in 15 seconds if we hold position. Marcus gestured sharply, indicating a silent plan. One group remained hidden. Another moved to intercept. Quietly, the SEALs were masters of close-quarters stealth, trained to neutralize threats without raising alarms. Within moments, the patrol was subdued. Unconscious men laid in shadows, unseen by others who might have followed. Marcus exhaled quietly, feeling the tension drain momentarily, but knowing the danger was far from over. Every step forward became a negotiation with the terrain. Mud clung to boots, streams whispered beneath fallen logs, and enemy dogs occasionally barked in the distance. Marcus kept an ear out for communications from Riley above, knowing she was already circling the airspace, scanning for threats, ready to intervene at a moment's notice. The pilot's presence was reassuring, but the team could not rely on her unless the situation became critical. They were on their own. Until then, an hour into the insertion, disaster nearly struck. A patrol unexpectedly crossed a narrow path ahead, the route the SEALs had planned to follow. Marcus froze the team, calculating options. The patrol was alert, scanning carefully. A single wrong move would set off alarms and invite reinforcements. Split, Marcus whispered, pointing to small gaps between trees and undergrowth. Left flank moves ahead. Right flank holds the ridge. Wait for my signal. The team obeyed, slipping into shadows. Time seemed to stretch as the enemy patrol passed within mere meters, oblivious to the ghostly figures that moved around them. Marcus felt sweat bead at his temple, the weight of the mission pressing down like a physical force. This was the reality of war. Seconds could mean life or death. Once the threat had passed, the SEALs regrouped and advanced carefully toward the first checkpoint. The area was dense with anti-personnel sensors, infrared tripwires, and motion detectors, each one a silent killer waiting for a careless step. Ortiz led the team, using specialized equipment to detect and disable threats without triggering alarms. The work was painstaking, each second a test of nerve and focus. Marcus stayed close, eyes scanning all angles, aware that even the smallest misstep could unravel the entire operation. Halfway through the ridge, a distant crack split the night air. Gunfire? Or a fallen branch? Every member instinctively hit. The ground, rifles ready. Marcus held up a hand, signaling a temporary halt. Communications crackled faintly, and a voice from Riley came over the comms, calm but commanding. SEALs, this is Raven 1. I've spotted multiple armed units approaching your position from the northeast. You need to adjust your path or risk being pinned. I can provide cover, but timing is critical. Marcus responded with a quick nod, even though Riley couldn't see him. Copy that. We'll adjust. Hold your position until we're clear. The SEALs shifted quietly, retracing steps and rerouting around the patrol's path. The mud sucked at their boots, making every movement slower, but training and discipline allowed them to remain nearly invisible. They pressed on, each man acutely, aware that the slightest sound could mean the difference between success and total failure. As the team neared the base of the ridge, they encountered unexpected terrain. A steep incline, slick with rain, littered with fallen branches and hidden roots. Marcus signaled a halt. We climbed single file, slow and silent. One misstep and we're done. The ascent was grueling. Boots slipped, hands scraped against bark, and hearts pounded not just from exertion, but from the weight of imminent danger. Every member of the team relied on muscle memory and trust in their teammates to navigate the incline. Marcus went last, watching backs, covering potential blind spots, his mind constantly calculating contingencies. Above them, Riley circled lower now, scanning the perimeter. Her A-10's engines hummed like a predator ready to strike. She adjusted her trajectory, calculating angles for low-altitude cover runs if the team were discovered. She knew she would have to act decisively, no hesitation. One wrong move at 500 miles per hour, and the SEALs would be exposed. The SEALs finally reached the plateau at the ridge's summit, a vantage point offering a partial view of the compound. The enemy had laid traps, motion sensors, tripwires, and guard rotations timed perfectly. The team paused, taking stock. Marcus scanned the perimeter, calculating the safest route. He whispered instructions, and the men moved in silent synchronization. Every sound, every step had meaning. Eyes sharp, Marcus murmured. This is where it gets real. Suddenly, a distant flashlight swept across the ridge. The SEALs froze, pressed themselves into cover, and waited. Time stretched into a painful eternity. Marcus's mind ran through every scenario: engagement, retreat, detection, failure. And then the light moved past them. Relief was palpable, but brief. The mission was far from over. Riley's voice came over the comms again, smooth but urgent. Approaching your position from the west, 2 guards, armed. You're in a narrow corridor. I can cover fire, but I'll need clearance. Marcus whispered into his mic, making a split-second decision. You have it. Take them down if necessary. We move immediately after. The sound of strafing fire from above echoed faintly as Riley's A-10 released a controlled barrage, enough to scatter the enemy patrol without fully exposing the team. The SEALs advanced, crawling through shadows, slipping past sensors, and inching ever closer to the compound. Every step demanded perfect timing, nerve, and discipline. By the time they reached the edge of the target zone, sweat dripped from brows, muscles ached, and hearts pounded like war drums. Marcus took one last survey of the terrain, noting patrol patterns and sensor locations. The insertion had been a success, but the hardest part was yet to come. Every obstacle, every threat, had tested their skills and resolve. And above them, Riley remained vigilant, a silent guardian ready to scream in low when the moment demanded it. The compound sprawled before the SEALs like a fortress born from nightmares. Even from a distance, the sharp angles of walls, guard towers, and floodlights made it clear that this was not a casual stronghold. It was engineered for defense. Marcus Kane signaled for the team to halt behind a dense thicket at the ridge's edge. Every man's breath was shallow, calculated, each movement measured with precision. The glow from distant searchlights reflected off distant metal fences and patrolling boots, painting shadows that danced across the terrain. Tonight, mistakes would be fatal. Ortiz scanned the perimeter, eyes narrowing through night vision goggles. 2 towers, possibly more. Guards changing shifts. Cameras every 30 meters. Infrared sensors along the south wall. We can't move straight in. His words carried a grim weight. The SEALs had trained for urban warfare, jungle operations, Mountain insertions, but a heavily fortified compound in the middle of hostile territory was an entirely different beast. Marcus whispered instructions, breaking the team into small advance units. Ortiz, you lead the right flank, clear sensors. Jennings, you're on the left. Cover fire if needed. The rest of us follow silently. Every member of the team understood the stakes, the importance of timing, and the razor's edge between. Success and failure. The first steps were painstaking. A tripwire almost caught Specialist Ortiz, but a careful hand redirected the tension, silently disarming the sensor. The SEALs moved forward, shadows among shadows, their presence masked by darkness and careful strategy. Every creak of mud beneath boots or rustle of leaves sent adrenaline coursing through veins. Suddenly, a guard stepped onto the path directly ahead. He had an assault rifle slung across his chest and scanned the ridge instinctively. Marcus signaled, and Jennings and Ortiz shifted, silently maneuvering into position. A quick motion, and the guard was neutralized, knocked out cold, dropped into the darkness, and covered by foliage. No alarm sounded, but the tension spiked. Every second now carried the weight of discovery. As the SEALs advanced, they encountered a web of obstacles designed to slow intruders. Motion sensors hummed quietly, laser tripwires crisscrossed corridors of land, and small trenches lined with mines threatened every step. Marcus led the team through a delicate dance of evasion, precision, and rapid calculation. He relied on experience, intuition, and the subtle movements of his men, each step a coordinated action that demanded silence and accuracy. The team reached a narrow access point, a natural bottleneck where the compound's defenses funneled any intruder into a kill zone. The faint light from the moon glinted off metal fences and barbed wire, revealing patterns of vulnerability and danger. Marcus knelt, scanning the area with binoculars and mapping out the safest path. "We move one by one," he whispered. "Slow, controlled, don't draw attention." The first SEAL moved forward, hands steady, eyes sharp. A misstep could trigger an alarm that would cascade through the entire compound. A second, a third. One by one, they moved through the narrow corridor, each man following precisely, avoiding sensors, avoiding detection. It was painstaking, nerve-wracking work that demanded focus beyond normal limits. And then it happened, a faint metallic click. Marcus froze, heart hammering. A patrol had noticed movement near a sensor. Red lights flickered, warning systems engaged. Marcus barked a hand signal, freeze. The SEALs pressed against cover, muscles taut, eyes wide. The patrol drew closer, boots clicking on metal walkways. Riley's voice came through combs, calm but intense. "Ridge is compromised. 2 patrols converging. I can suppress them, but you must move now." Marcus made a split-second decision. "Riley, do it." Above, the low roar of the A-10 erupted. Riley dove in, strafing the first patrol with precision. Fire that scattered the guards and destroyed their equipment. Explosions lit the night sky briefly, throwing shadows across the ground. The second patrol scrambled, disoriented, and Riley's targeting kept them pinned long enough for the SEALs to advance. The team pressed forward, adrenaline surging. Every footstep was calculated, every breath measured. They slipped past sensors and cameras now partially disabled by Riley's intervention. Yet the danger hadn't passed. The compound had multiple layers, walls with fortified gates, guard towers on every corner, and the faint but unmistakable sounds of reinforcements moving in the distance. The SEALs paused at a high vantage point just short of the main perimeter wall. Marcus surveyed the compound. They were close, yet exposed, with open ground threatening any movement. He traced a line in his mind, calculating patrol schedules, timing, and shadows. "We breach at the southeast gate. Ortiz and Jennings. Clear sensors. Rest of us provide cover. As Ortiz and Jennings moved forward, a faint buzz signaled a drone overhead. It hovered briefly, scanning the perimeter with infrared. Marcus tensed, realizing the threat's implications. Detection now could be catastrophic. Riley, listening, in from above, responded immediately. Drone neutralized. I'll keep the skies clear, but ground reinforcements are approaching fast. Move now. The SEALs darted across open ground, timing every step with Riley's low-level strafing runs above. The roar of engines mixed with controlled explosions as Riley took out enemy positions from above, forcing guards into cover. Marcus moved with precision, calculating distances, keeping men coordinated, all while keeping nerves in check. They reached the gate and found it heavily reinforced. Marcus checked his explosives kit. Breach in 30 seconds. Positions. He distributed tasks quickly. 2 on cover, 2 preparing charges, and 2 ready to move immediately after detonation. Ortiz set the timer and retreated to cover. Every motion was rehearsed, every second critical. The explosion tore through the night, a violent contrast to the controlled silence before. Metal screamed, sparks flew, and alarms began to blare. The SEALs didn't hesitate. They moved through the opening, rifles ready, eyes scanning. The first wave of guards scrambled, but Riley's A-10 strafing above prevented reinforcements from reaching the breach. The chaos was overwhelming, yet the SEALs thrived in it. Close quarters combat erupted immediately. Gunfire echoed off walls. Shouts and curses filled the night. Marcus and his team moved like shadows, eliminating threats with lethal precision. Each room, each corridor, was a battle in miniature. Muscle memory, discipline, and teamwork kept them alive. Every step coordinated with Riley's strafing runs, creating a deadly synergy between air and ground. Sweat dripped from every face. Hearts pounded in rhythm with distant explosions. Marcus caught sight of a target moving through the compound, high value and heavily armed. The team adjusted instantly, blocking exits and cornering the target. Riley, still above, provided crucial cover, strafing enemy reinforcements that attempted to flank the SEALs. Minutes felt like hours as the SEALs moved through the compound, neutralizing guards, avoiding booby traps, and securing entry points. Every man operated at peak focus, every muscle engaged. Marcus felt a surge of pride, but no relief. The danger was far from over. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the SEALs reached the central building where intelligence indicated the target would be. The compound's defenses had been formidable, but through precision, training, and Riley's intervention, they had overcome the first and most dangerous barrier. The target's domain loomed ahead, silent and foreboding, waiting for the confrontation to come. Marcus signaled the team to regroup. Every man was battered, exhausted, but alive. They had navigated treacherous terrain, defeated patrols, and survived the compound's defenses. Yet the mission wasn't over. The target awaited, and so did the final test of skill, courage, and resolve. Above them, Riley circled low, ready to scream in over the enemy should the need arise. Marcus took a deep breath. This is it. We move in. Remember, every second counts. Eyes sharp, triggers ready, and trust each other. We finish this. And with that, the SEALs advanced, shadows moving with deadly precision toward the heart of the enemy's fortress. Every step a testament to training, courage, and the unbreakable bond between ground and air. The first hints of dawn had yet to break, but the night was alive with the chaos of battle. Inside the central courtyard of the enemy compound, the SEALs moved like ghosts, taking cover behind overturned crates and crumbling walls. Gunfire cracked. Through the darkness, punctuated by the shouts of guards and the mechanical whine of automated turrets. Marcus Kane's team was stretched thin, trapped between layers of enemy fire and the intricate maze of the compound. Every step forward felt like threading a needle in a storm. The target's defenses had far exceeded even the most pessimistic intelligence reports. From above, the distant thrum of an engine grew into a roar. Riley Hayes guided her A-10 Warthog low through the night sky, banking tightly between the ridges and treetops. Alone, without a wingman, she was acutely aware that her aircraft was both a weapon and a shield for the men below. The terrain forced her to fly at perilously low altitude, hugging contours, dodging anti-aircraft positions that could tear her plane apart in seconds. Yet fear had no place here. Skill and instinct carried her through, each maneuver precise and deadly. Raven 1 to SEALs. Riley's voice came over the combs, calm and controlled. Enemy forces tightening around your location. I'm going in hot. Stay low and move in sync with my run. Marcus signaled his team, motioning for coordinated movements toward the open section of the courtyard. Every man shifted instinctively, rifles at the ready, timing their steps with the low, rhythmic roar of the aircraft above. Riley dove, engines screaming, unleashing a series of precise strafing runs that shredded barricades and scattered enemy formations. Guards fell to the ground, some dazed, some panicked, as the unexpected assault from the sky shattered their sense of control. The effect was immediate. The SEALs seized the moment, sprinting across the exposed terrain, keeping close to walls and debris, using every ounce of cover available. The sound of bullets ricocheting off metal and stone created a symphony of chaos, but Riley's guidance ensured they weren't pinned. Each strafing pass was calculated to keep the enemy off balance, while leaving the SEALs free to advance. Marcus's heart pounded in rhythm with the distant explosions, but he maintained focus. Move to the southeast corner. Jennings, Ortiz. Cover the breach. Rest of us, advance and clear. His team obeyed without hesitation, the trust between them absolute. Every motion was rehearsed, every response instinctual, yet the danger remained immediate. One misstep could trigger a counterattack, and one miscalculation from above could cost lives. Riley's A-10 screamed low, the canopy reflecting the faint glimmer of moonlight. She banked hard, the plane shaking as anti-aircraft rounds whizzed past, narrowly missing her. Her eyes flicked between displays, tracking targets and calculating fire runs. Every maneuver had to be flawless. There was no margin for error. She let loose another barrage, targeting fortified positions and enemy reinforcements, her bullets and cannon fire carving a path for the SEALs. On the ground, Ortiz crouched behind a shattered wall, peering through night vision goggles as enemy forces regrouped. He signaled the team to move forward, covering fire from Riley Go. Marcus led the charge, sprinting toward the breach point, his team flowing behind him like a shadow wave. The noise above and around them created a tunnel of chaos that the enemy could not predict. The SEALs reached the southeastern corner, the first significant objective within reach. A heavily armed checkpoint blocked their path, but Riley's strafing runs had disoriented the guards, forcing them to scatter or take cover. Marcus gestured to his team. On my signal, breach and neutralize. Move fast. Stay tight. The SEALs erupted into motion. The air was thick with smoke, dust, and the acrid tongue of spent gunpowder. Close quarters combat ensued. Knives flashed, rifles barked, and grenades cracked as Marcus's team moved with lethal precision. Every man was aware of Riley above, timing their maneuvers with her strafing to ensure the enemy never had a chance to mount an organized defense. Despite the chaos, Marcus caught a glimpse of the target moving inside the central building, heavily, armed and surrounded by elite guards. The team adjusted instantly, redirecting movements to intercept. Riley, sensing the shift, veered her A-10 low again, engines screaming. unleashing fire that pinned down the reinforcements while the SEALs closed in. Every shot from above was deliberate, aimed to disable, disorient, and destroy, creating a narrow corridor for Marcus and his team. Minutes stretched like hours. The SEALs moved with synchronized precision, covering each other, communicating silently with hand signals and glances. The compound's defenses were formidable, yet they were systematically neutralized through coordinated ground and air tactics. Marcus felt adrenaline surge through his veins, every instinct screaming, every decision critical. One misstep, one hesitation, and the mission would unravel in an instant. The A-10's presence altered this battlefield entirely. Enemy reinforcements hesitated, caught between the incoming fire from above and the advancing SEALs below. Walls that once seemed impenetrable were now breached with controlled aggression, barricades torn down, and enemy morale shredded. Marcus watched as Riley executed a low, tight turn, delivering a final precision strike that forced the remaining guards to retreat or surrender. Inside the compound, Marcus signaled for the team to advance. They moved as a single lethal entity, rifles raised, clearing hallways and rooms with methodical precision. The sound of gunfire, the echo of explosions, and the hum of engines overhead created a surreal symphony of destruction. Marcus's training and experience guided every step, but it was Riley's courage and skill in the sky that transformed near impossible odds into a tangible path to success. By the time the team reached the central courtyard, the target was finally within reach. The enemy's remaining forces were disoriented, scattered, and desperate. Marcus signaled Ortiz and Jennings to cover the flanks while he and the others moved to intercept. Every movement, every breath, was calculated for maximum efficiency. The hours of planning, training, and coordination had led to this moment, a convergence of precision, courage, and timing. Riley circled overhead, engines humming low, scanning the remaining threats. She knew the mission wasn't over until extraction was complete, and she maintained constant vigilance, ready to intervene if necessary. The SEALs moved with a lethal elegance, taking the final steps toward the central building where the target was holed up. Marcus's mind raced, calculating possibilities, anticipating threats, and trusting his team to execute flawlessly. The last few yards were the most dangerous. Guards had regrouped near entry points, but the synchronized assault from both ground and air forced them to falter. Marcus led the charge, weapons ready, muscles taut, every motion executed with deadly precision. Ortiz neutralized a guard at close range. Jennings covered another, and the team advanced, clearing corridors systematically. The target, cornered and desperate, had no room to maneuver. Above, Riley's A-10 screamed in low, strafing one final barricade to prevent any escape or reinforcement. The roar of her engines filled the compound with a visceral presence, a reminder of the deadly force supporting the SEALs below. Marcus felt a surge of gratitude and respect for the pilot whose courage had turned the tide. Without her, the mission might have failed before it truly began. Finally, Marcus and his team reached the central chamber. The target was subdued swiftly, the SEALs moving with controlled, lethal precision. The danger was not over, but the primary objective had been achieved. Marcus allowed himself a brief moment of relief, acknowledging the team's skill and the pilot's intervention. Every life saved, every obstacle overcome, was a testament to training, courage, and unwavering trust in one another. The courtyard fell into a tense quiet, punctuated only by the low hum of Riley's A-10 circling overhead. The SEALs secured the area, taking stock of their positions and injuries. The battle had been brutal, but victory was clear. The target had been neutralized, the compound had been breached, and the team had survived against impossible odds. Marcus looked skyward briefly, catching the gleam of Riley's canopy in the faint moonlight. "Good work, Captain," he said into the comms. We couldn't have done this without you. Riley's voice crackled back, calm but triumphant. You didn't need me, just some timing and a little noise. You all did your part down there. I'm just here to make sure you get to finish it. Marcus allowed himself a small, weary smile. The SEALs had survived the worst the compound could throw at them, thanks to skill, coordination, and the unrelenting support from above. But they all knew the mission wasn't over. Extraction and escape still lay ahead. Yet in this moment, amidst the chaos and destruction, the impossible had been made possible. The compound, though scarred and smoking, was far from silent. Echoes of retreating boots bounced through the stone hallways, mixed with the occasional defiant burst of gunfire. The SEALs had the advantage now, but Marcus Kane knew advantages were fragile. One wrong move, one moment of overconfidence, could tip the balance back in the enemy's favor. Stack left, 2 by 2, he ordered in a low growl, his voice calm but commanding. Sweat mixed with the dust caked on his skin, dripping beneath his helmet. His rifle was steady, hands unwavering, eyes locked forward. The target was trapped somewhere deeper inside, and every second mattered. Ortiz took point, his NVG's glowing faint green as he scanned the next hallway. Jennings covered rear security, his heavy machine gun braced and ready, sweat pouring from his forehead despite the cool desert night. 2 more operators carried the breaching charges, wires and explosives strapped to their gear, prepared to turn walls into doorways if needed. Above, Riley Hayes' A-10 thundered like a guardian spirit. Her orbit was wide, circling the compound with relentless vigilance. Through her cockpit glass, she scanned for heat signatures, reinforcements trying to sneak in, armored vehicles attempting to approach, or anti-air batteries preparing another shot at her. Her fuel was running lower than she liked, but she didn't dare break orbit. Not yet. Not while the men below were still fighting tooth and nail. Raven 1 to SEALs. Perimeter clear for now. You've got maybe 5 minutes before enemy reinforcements regroup. I'll hold them, but you've got to lock this down fast. Copy, Raven, Marcus replied. His throat felt dry, but his tone was steady. We're breaching the inner sanctum now. Stand by for target confirmation. He raised his fist, signaling the team forward. They moved like a machine fluid, efficient, deadly. Every man trusted the one beside him with his life. In that trust was freedom, the freedom to act without hesitation, to push forward in the face of death. To achieve the impossible. At the inner courtyard's end stood a thick metal door reinforced with welded plating. It was the last barrier between the SEALs and their objective. Marcus crouched beside it, running his gloved hand across the seams. No handle, no hinges designed to resist intruders. He didn't flinch. Charges, he ordered. 1 operator stepped forward, swiftly attaching strips of C4 along the edges, his hands moving with surgeon-like precision. He clipped wires, set detonators, and gave Marcus a nod. The entire sequence took less than 60 seconds. Efficiency meant survival. Fire in the hole, Marcus muttered. He signaled his men to take cover. They crouched behind fallen stone and broken pillars as the operator triggered the charge. The explosion ripped the night apart, shaking the ground beneath their boots. The reinforced door blew inward, smoke and dust billowing like a storm cloud. Screams echoed from inside, followed by immediate bursts of enemy gunfire. Go! Go! Marcus shouted. The SEALs surged through the smoke, rifles up, movements sharp and violent. The hallway beyond was narrow, lit by flickering fluorescent bulbs that cast eerie shadows. Enemy guards fired wildly, but Marcus's men cut them down with ruthless precision. Bullets tore chunks from plaster walls. Grenades sent shrapnel hissing through the air. But the SEALs pressed forward, clearing one room after another. Ortiz kicked open a side door, neutralizing 2 guards before they could even lift their weapons. Jennings swept his machine gun fire across a barricade, tearing apart cover and forcing defenders into the open. Marcus advanced steadily, every motion deliberate, his rifle barking in short. Deadly bursts dot from above. Riley monitored the chaos through her targeting pod. Heat signatures inside the compound danced wildly, friendlies advancing, hostiles falling. Back, reinforcements trying to regroup near the western gate. She keyed her comms. Marcus, you've got movement west side. Looks like 2 technicals inbound, mounted guns. I can cut them off. Do it, Marcus answered without hesitation. Riley banked hard, her A-10 groaning as she lined up the shot. She dropped low, hugging the terrain, the moonlight glinting off her wings. The 2 trucks barreled toward the compound, headlights slicing through the darkness, machine guns swiveling to spray death into the courtyard. But before they could fire, Riley unleashed hell. Her GAU-8 cannon roared, spitting depleted uranium rounds that tore the trucks apart like paper. Flames erupted, black smoke curling into the sky. Threat neutralized, she reported. Her voice was calm, but her grip on the stick was tight. She was running out of ammo fast, but she couldn't think about that now. Inside, Marcus's team pushed deeper. They reached a stairwell, its steps steep and narrow, leading into the compound's underground chambers. The air grew hotter, thicker, filled with the acrid tang of explosives and smoke. Every shadow was a potential ambush, every corner a trap dot at the stairwell's base. They encountered the heaviest resistance yet. Dozens of guards had barricaded themselves, weapons trained on the choke point. The SEALs hugged the walls, returning. Fire in controlled bursts, but advancement seemed impossible. The enemy had chosen their ground wisely. Marcus pressed against the wall, assessing. His mind worked like a machine, processing angles, threats, opportunities. Then he tapped Ortiz's shoulder. Diversion left, breach right. We're going to split their focus. Ortiz nodded without hesitation. He pulled a flashbang from his vest, yanked the pin, and hurled it down the left corridor. The explosion of white light and sound stunned the defenders, forcing them to flinch. In that heartbeat of hesitation, Marcus's breacher placed another. Charge on the right wall. Fire. The wall blew inward, debris flying. The SEALs poured through the improvised breach, catching the defenders from an angle they hadn't prepared for. The firefight turned savage, brutal, close. Muzzle flashes lit the chamber like lightning, shouts and screams mingling with the deafening thunder of gunfire. The SEALs fought with disciplined ferocity, clearing the barricade one target at a time. Minutes later, silence fell, broken only by the ringing in their ears. The defenders were down. A path ahead was open. Marcus exhaled slowly, steadying his breathing. Status? Ortiz good. Jennings good. Minor wounds, nothing critical. Ortiz reported between breaths. Marcus nodded. They were bloodied, but intact. More importantly, the target was now close. His instincts told him they were within striking distance. Above, Riley checked her displays again. Marcus, fuel's at bingo. I can give you maybe 2 more passes. Then I have to break for refuel. You're on your own after that. Understood, Marcus said. He didn't let his voice betray the weight of her words. They had relied on her steel wings like a shield. Losing her presence would tighten this noose. But that was the job. They trained for worst-case scenarios. The SEALs regrouped, pressing deeper into the underground halls. They moved slower now, conserving ammo, conserving breath, conserving lives. The walls were lined with steel doors, each leading to small chamber cells, storage rooms, or hidden armories. The enemy had prepared for a siege, but they hadn't prepared for Riley's wrath from above. Finally, at the end of the hall, They reached a reinforced chamber flanked by 2 guards. Marcus dropped them both with 2 quick shots, then motioned his team into position. They all knew this was it. The target was inside. Marcus keyed his radio. Raven 1, we're at the final door. Target secure in sight. Hold perimeter until we're out. Copy, Marcus, Riley replied. Her voice was calm, but there was steel in it. Bring him out alive. I'll keep the wolves off your back. Marcus turned to his men. Their faces were grim, determined. Every man understood the stakes. Failure was not an option. Breach on 3, Marcus said. The team tightened their grips on weapons. The charge was set. The hallway was silent, save for the pounding of their hearts. 1, 2, 3. The explosion tore the chamber. Open. Smoke rolled in, gunfire erupted, and the SEALs stormed forward into the heart of the compound. The final confrontation had begun. The chamber exploded with chaos the moment the charge detonated. Dust and smoke poured into the air, obscuring vision, but the SEALs moved like predators through a storm. Their rifles were up, lasers cutting through the haze, every man disciplined. And lethal. Gunfire erupted instantly from within. Muzzle flashes lit the darkness, sparks ricocheting off concrete walls. Marcus Kane led the breach, his boots crunching over debris as he pressed forward. The first hostile fell to his controlled. Double tap. Ortiz swept left, clearing a barricade where 2 more fighters crouched. Jennings's machine gun thundered, suppressing a corner where defenders tried to regroup. The room was wide, lined with stacked crates and steel cabinets, its center dominated by a makeshift command table. Maps were pinned to the walls, covered, with markings and red circles, plans of attacks yet to be carried out. In the far corner, shielded by guards, crouched their prize, the high-value target. Marcus caught sight of him instantly. Bearded, cloaked in dark robes, eyes burning with both fear and fury. He was smaller than Marcus had imagined, but his presence radiated arrogance. Surrounded, desperate, yet still shouting orders in a booming voice. His guards obeyed with suicidal loyalty, firing wildly, throwing themselves between him and the SEAL's bullets. Contact on target. Marcus shouted. The team adjusted instantly. Ortiz flanked right, while 2 operators launched flashbangs to stun the defenders. The blinding bursts disoriented the enemy, giving the SEALs precious seconds to strike. They surged forward in coordinated violence. One by one, the guards fell, their weapons clattering to the ground. The target scrambled backward, pressing himself against the far wall. He reached for a pistol at his belt, but Marcus was already on him. With one swift motion, he drove the man to the floor, his knee pressing into his chest, rifle barrel at his forehead. Target secure, Marcus barked. His men formed a perimeter instantly, weapons still sweeping, ensuring no surprises. The target thrashed beneath him, spitting curses in a guttural tone, but Marcus's weight kept him pinned. He zip-tied the man's wrists behind his back with practiced efficiency, then yanked him upright. The fight in the compound had been brutal, but the objective was alive, and that was what mattered. Ortiz stepped forward, checking the target's face against the intel photo clipped to his chest rig. His eyes narrowed, then widened in confirmation. It's him, 100% positive ID. A rush of relief passed through the team. Months of tracking, planning, failed attempts, and near losses, all of it had led here. The mission was officially a success. Marcus keyed his radio. Raven 1, be advised. Jackpot. Target secured, alive. In the cockpit of her A-10, Rayleigh Hayes exhaled a long, shaky breath. Her lips curved into the faintest smile. Copy that. SEALs. Jackpot confirmed. You've got a lot of angry friends out there, though. I'll keep the skies clean. Get your package and get out. The relief was short-lived. A new sound cut through the underground chamber, the low rumble of engines and the distant roar of gunfire. Reinforcements. The compound wasn't isolated. More fighters were already mobilizing. Jennings pressed his earpiece tighter. Picking. Up Kung Chowder looks like 2 platoons worth inbound from the east and south. Marcus cursed under his breath. They'll box us in if we stay. We move now. The team tightened formation. 2 operators flanked the bound target, dragging him forward. Jennings pulled rear security, his heavy gun at the ready. Marcus led them back into the corridor they'd cleared, every sense sharpened. The walls shook as another explosion echoed overhead. Dust rained down. Light fixtures swayed. The compound wasn't just under siege, it was collapsing under the weight of sustained battle. Raven 1, status on exfil route? Marcus demanded. Riley's voice came back with steel. Not good. East side is swarming. West is compromised. Only viable path is north through the canyon. I can clear you a window, but it'll be tight. Marcus didn't hesitate. North. It is. Guide us. They moved fast, boots slamming against stone floors, dragging their prisoner with them. He spat more curses, his voice venomous, but Marcus ignored him. His focus was survival. His focus was getting every man out alive. The stairwell back to the surface loomed ahead. Ortiz took point, ascending cautiously. At the top, he froze, then ducked back. Contact. Whole squad at the exit. The seals set quickly. Flashbangs. Arced upward, detonating with disorienting brilliance. Ortiz surged through the blast, rifle spitting. Marcus followed, laying down precise fire. They cut through the squad with ruthless efficiency, their training and teamwork overwhelming the defenders' numbers. Fresh air hit Marcus's lungs as they emerged into the night. The compound's courtyard was still burning, littered with wreckage from Riley's earlier strafing runs. The smell of fuel and blood clung to everything. Then headlights appeared in the distance, dozens of them, bouncing over the rocky desert terrain. Reinforcements, just as Jennings had warned. Raven 1, we need cover, Marcus shouted. Riley had already seen it. Banking hard, she brought the A-10 screaming in low. So low, the team could feel the vibration of its engines rattling in their chests. She lined up her cannon, thumb poised over the trigger. The GAU-8 arced fire into the night, each round ripping through the lead convoy. Trucks exploded, bodies scattered, and the line of reinforcements faltered in panic. Flames roared. Skyward, lighting the desert like a second sun. Windows open, Riley growled. Move! The SEALs sprinted north, their prisoner shoved ahead of them, boots pounding into the dirt. Jennings fired bursts behind them to keep pursuers at bay. Ortiz guided them toward the canyon's edge, where jagged rock walls offered cover, but the enemy wasn't done. Mortar rounds began to whistle overhead, crashing into the ground with bone-shaking impact. Dirt and rock rained down, fragments slicing skin. One landed close enough to knock Ortiz off his feet. Marcus grabbed him by the vest, dragging him back. Up without breaking stride. They dove into the canyon, the walls swallowing them, providing temporary shelter from the onslaught. But it was no sanctuary. Fighters were already repositioning to block the northern exit. Marcus's mind raced. They were running out of time, running out of ammo, and Riley was running out of fuel. But retreat wasn't an option. They had the target. Success meant extraction. Failure meant capture or death. Raven 1, status? He snapped. Her reply was tight, urgent. I've got maybe one more strike run left before I hit bingo fuel. After that, I have to head back to Tanker. Make it count. Marcus clenched. His jaw. Copy. Clear us the north exit. We'll push through on your mark. The SEALs crouched in the canyon, breaths ragged, weapons low on magazines. The target stumbled between them. his eyes now betraying fear. The confidence he'd carried inside the chamber was gone. He realized, finally, that his empire was burning down around him. Above, Riley lined up her last pass. She could see the fighters gathering at the canyon exit, heavy guns being set, RPGs on shoulders. They thought they had the SEALs cornered. They thought the kill was inevitable. Not tonight. She squeezed the trigger, unleashing her cannon's final fury. The rounds chewed through the canyon's mouth, ripping apart enemy positions, collapsing rock, sending men scattering. Secondary explosions erupted as their ammo caches ignited. When the dust cleared, nothing remained but fire and rubble. "Exit clear," Riley called. Her voice carried a hint of strain. "That's all I've got, boys. You're on your own." From here, Marcus didn't waste a second. "Move, move, move." They surged forward through the smoking wreckage, dragging the prisoner with them. The canyon walls echoed with the sound of their boots, the hiss of burning fires, the distant shouts of survivors regrouping behind them. Every muscle ached, every lung screamed, but none of it mattered. The target was theirs. The exit was open. For the first time all night, victory was within reach. The canyon stretched before them like a scar across the desert, jagged walls rising high on either side. The SEALs moved fast, boots slamming into dirt and stone, every breath pulled through clenched teeth. Their prisoners stumbled often, dragged upright each time by Ortiz or Jennings, who refused to let him slow the team down. The northern exit loomed in the distance, faint light shimmering beyond the smoke of Riley's last strike. They were close, but not close enough. Behind them, enemy shouts echoed, growing louder, closer. The survivors were regrouping. And this time, Riley Hayes was gone her at 10 low on fuel, forced to break off. Marcus Kane knew the reality. They were on their own. Stay tight. He barked, rifle raised, eyes scanning the shadows ahead. We get to the exfil point. No matter what. The canyon walls amplified every sound, their footsteps, the clatter of loose rock, the metallic jingle of deer. It also carried the enemy's approach. Dozens of fighters, maybe more, their voices a mix of rage and desperation. Jennings swung his machine gun into position at the rear. Contact in 3-2. The first burst of gunfire erupted from the cliffs. Sparks rained down as rounds struck stone. The SEALs dove behind boulders, dragging the prisoner with them. The canyon had become a kill zone, and their enemies had the high ground. "Ambush," Ortiz shouted. He returned fire, short, controlled bursts cutting into the figures silhouetted above. Marcus joined him, scanning for muzzle flashes. Jennings's machine gun thundered, ripping chunks of rock from the cliffs as he suppressed. The enemy was relentless. RPGs whooshed overhead, detonating with thunderous force, showering the canyon in shards of stone. One blast knocked the prisoner flat, dazing him. Marcus yanked him upright, shoving him forward. "Move. Stay low and move." As SEALs bounded from cover to cover, firing as they advanced. Dust and smoke filled their lungs, but the team pushed on, discipline and training carrying them through. Every man fought not just for himself, but for the others. At a choke point, Marcus halted. "Jennings, hold rear. Everyone else, push." Jennings set up on a rock outcrop, bracing his weapon. "Copy that." The team surged past him, dragging the prisoner. Jennings unleashed hell, his gun chattering in long, punishing bursts. Bodies fell from the cliffs, their screams cut short by the roar of his fire. But for every enemy downed, 2 more appeared. Finally, Marcus called, "Fall back, Jennings." Jennings broke from his perch, sprinting, gun still hot in his hands. Ortiz covered him with precise shots, dropping a fighter who tried to chase. The team reformed, breathless but intact. Still, The exit seemed miles away. Marcus keyed his radio. Raven 1, we're pinned in the canyon. We need air cover now. Static hissed. Then Riley's voice, tight and apologetic. Negative, Raven. I'm dry on fuel. Tanker's inbound, but I'm off station for at least 15 mics. Marcus cursed under his breath. 15 minutes might as well be 15 years in a firefight like this. Copy, he said grimly. We'll manage. The team pressed on. Every corner was another threat. At one bend, fighters charged directly into the canyon, AKs blazing. The SEALs responded with ruthless precision. Grenades arced out, detonating with concussive force, shredding the attackers before they could close the distance. The prisoner stumbled again, his face pale, his robe torn. For the first time, his arrogance was gone. He looked like what he truly was, a man watching the collapse of his empire. Ortiz shoved him forward roughly. Keep moving, you bastard. You're not dying here. Halfway to the exit, the canyon widened into an open basin. It was a death trap, no cover, no concealment, just open ground. Marcus scanned quickly, calculating. We sprint across, fast as hell. No stopping. Jennings lay suppressive. Ortiz, you and I carry the package. They bolted. Jennings opened fire again, his weapon roaring, tracers slicing through the dark. Marcus and Ortiz hauled the prisoner between them, his feet barely touching the ground. Jennings followed last, darting across as his barrel smoked. Enemy fire raked. The basin. Bullets snapped past, chipping stone, tearing into dirt. One round clipped Ortiz's shoulder, spinning him sideways. He grunted, teeth clenched, but never let go of the prisoner. Marcus grabbed his vest, dragging them both forward. Finally, they reached the far side, diving behind the first rocks they could find. Jennings collapsed beside them, chest heaving, gun glowing red-hot. We're burning daylight, Ortiz hissed, pressing a hand to his bleeding shoulder. We've got to move. Marcus checked the exit. It was close, so close, but blocked again. A dozen fighters had regrouped, heavy weapons trained on the canyon mouth. Without Riley, it was suicide to push through. Marcus's mind raced. Ortiz. Can you rig demo? Ortiz nodded, pulling charges from his pack, despite the blood soaking his sleeve. Give me 2 minutes. Jennings growled. You've got 30 seconds. The enemy fire intensified, echoing in the canyon, rounds striking closer. Ortiz worked fast, planting charges along a fault in the rock wall. His hands moved with muscle memory, setting the detonators with precision. Finally, he stumbled back. Grimacing. Set, Marcus keyed his mic. All stations, fire in the hole. The explosion ripped through the canyon, the rock wall collapsing in a thunderous landslide. Dust and boulders crashed down, crushing the fighters at the exit, sealing half the mouth with rubble. Smoke and debris filled the air, but for the first time, the path was open. Go, go, go. Marcus roared. The SEALs surged forward through the gap, dragging their prisoner. Behind them, the canyon echoed with enemy shouts, but the collapse had bought them precious time. They emerged into open desert at last. The sky stretched wide and endless above them, stars shimmering faintly in the distance. Freedom was close, but so was danger. Trucks could be heard rumbling in the distance, reinforcements still chasing. Marcus keyed his radio again. Raven 1, status? This time, Riley's voice was calm, steady, determined. On final approach to tanker. Give me 5 more mics, and I'll be back overhead. Marcus nodded grimly. 5 minutes. They just had to survive 5 more minutes in open desert against an enemy that refused to quit. The SEALs set a perimeter around their prisoner, rifles scanning the horizon. Exhaustion weighed on them. Sweat stung their eyes, but no one wavered. They had come too far to break now. Jennings spat into the dirt. 5 minutes feels like forever out here. Marcus's eyes stayed locked on the horizon. Engines roared. Closer, headlights bouncing through the night. Enemy trucks, closing fast. Forever or not, Marcus muttered. We hold. The SEALs raised their weapons, ready to fight the longest 5 minutes of their lives. The desert stretched out like an endless sea of sand and stone, broken only by the dark silhouettes of approaching trucks. Their engines growled low, headlights cutting long beams across the night. Dust plumes rose behind them, marking the enemy's relentless pursuit. Marcus Kane crouched in the sand, rifle steady, sweat dripping from his brow. Around him, the remaining SEALs tightened their perimeter, weapons trained outward. Their prisoner sat bound at the center, wide-eyed, realizing his own people were coming not to rescue, but to kill better dead than captured alive. 3 trucks, maybe 4, Jennings muttered, peering through night optics, each carrying a squad. That's 40 men minimum, Ortiz added, pressing a blood-soaked cloth to his wounded shoulder. And we've got, what, 3 magazines each? Marcus checked his ammo. Half a mag loaded, 3 more left. Enough for one last fight. He forced a steady tone. We hold until Raven returns. That's the plan, no one argued. They all knew the math was bad, but the mission mattered more than numbers. The prisoner had to make it out. The engines roared louder, the headlights brighter. Trucks skidded to a halt barely 200 yards away, men pouring out in waves. Their war cries filled the night, rifles raised. The SEALs opened fire. Suppressed rifles cracked, controlled bursts dropping the first line of attackers. Jennings unleashed his machine gun, the weapon spitting fire as tracers sliced across the sand. Several fighters crumpled instantly, but more surged forward, returning fire in deadly sheets. Bullets tore into the dirt around them, snapping past ears, striking sparks from rocks. The SEALs hugged cover, returning fire with surgical precision. Still, the enemy closed the distance. Marcus keyed his radio. Raven 1, status? Static hissed, then Riley's voice cut through. Calm, certain. I'm back on station. 30 seconds out. Marcus grinned grimly. Make it count. The fight reached a brutal crescendo. Grenades arced overhead, detonating with concussive blasts that shook the ground. Ortiz was thrown backward by the shock wave, coughing, clutching. His shoulder. Jennings kept firing, shouting through the chaos. Their flanking left. Marcus pivoted, laying down fire at the approaching flank. The enemy was everywhere, their sheer numbers overwhelming. He knew they couldn't hold much longer. Then the night roared. From above, a thunderous scream tore through the darkness. Riley Hayes's A-10 swooped in low, engines howling, her bird lit against the stars. She dropped in so close Marcus swore. He could see the scuffs on her canopy. Guns hot, Riley announced, her voice steady. The GAU-8 cannon erupted. A torrent of 30mm rounds raked the desert, shredding the trucks and scattering fighters like leaves in a storm. Explosions blossomed. Across the sand, fireballs lighting the canyon walls. Men screamed and ran as their vehicles were torn apart by relentless fire. The SEALs hunkered low, shielding their prisoner, the earth itself trembling beneath the A-10's fury. Jennings looked up with wild eyes and shouted over the chaos. God! Bless the warhog! Riley pulled up sharply, circling wide. One more pass. Stay low. The enemy tried to regroup, some rallying behind burning trucks, others aiming RPGs skyward. But Riley was faster. She dove again, unleashing rockets into their position. The blasts ripped through, flipping vehicles, turning cover into shrapnel. The fighters who moments ago seemed unstoppable were now scattering, broken and panicked. Marcus seized the moment. Move! To the extraction point now. The SEALs lifted the prisoner and ran, sprinting through the smoke and fire. Every step was agony, lungs burning, legs heavy, but adrenaline carried them. Behind them, Riley circled like a hawk, unleashing punishing bursts at any fighter daring to pursue. They crested a ridge and saw it, a faint blinking strobe in the distance. Their designated pickup zone. A pair of dark silhouettes waited M47 Chinooks, rotors chopping the night air. Their salvation. Almost there. Ortiz shouted, blood streaking down his arm. But the fight wasn't done. A final wave of enemy fighters surged from the dunes, desperate to stop them before escape. Gunfire erupted again, cutting into the night. One SEAL stumbled, rounds sparking off his vest, but Jennings hauled him upright. Marcus set his jaw. Hold them off. Get the package to the bird. They formed a fighting line, rifles hammering at the last wave. The prisoner screamed, ducking. Low, realizing he was the prize in this deadly contest, Jennings went down to a knee, firing until his barrel glowed. Ortiz, pale from blood loss, tossed his last grenade, the explosion tearing a gap in the attackers. The Chinooks lowered ramps, crews waving frantically. The SEALs dragged the prisoner aboard, Jennings and Ortiz stumbling behind. Marcus was the last, covering the rear with furious bursts, his rifle spitting fire until the final round clicked empty. Then he leapt aboard. The ramp closed. The Chinook lifted, engines straining as it clawed into the sky. Below, the desert burned. Trucks smoldered, fighters scattered, the canyon echoing with chaos. Above it all, Riley Hayes's A-10 banked one final time, flying low alongside the departing helicopters, her silhouette fierce against the stars. Package secure, Marcus reported into his headset, voice hoarse. Mission complete. There was silence for a long moment. Then Riley's voice, soft but firm, came through. Copy that. You boys did your part. Now let's get everyone home. Inside the bird, the SEALs slumped against the walls, exhaustion crashing down at last. Ortiz's wound was dressed by the crew. Jennings cradled his machine gun like a lifeline. The prisoner sat shackled, glaring at the floor, silent. Marcus let his rifle fall across his lap, staring out the open side door at the burning desert below. The mission had nearly collapsed a dozen times, but they'd clawed through because of Riley, because of each other. He thought of the canyon, the endless firefights, the weight of every decision. None of it would leave him soon. But for now, survival was enough. The Chinooks droned into the night, carrying them toward safety. Riley peeled away at last, her A-10 banking east toward base, fuel almost gone, but spirit unbroken. Marcus closed, his eyes letting the vibrations of the bird lull him. The mission wasn't about medals or glory. It was about trust. Trust that when everything went wrong, someone like Riley Hayes would come screaming out of the sky, low and merciless, to tip the balance back. And in the silence that followed, that truth was all the comfort he needed.